We are on our way.
So Michelangelo and the statue of the David. After Piazza Michelangelo, we go to one of the only 2 points where the bus can drop us off. There are only 2 points in Florence. That basically means we will walk today from A to B, and then we walk to the entrance to the square of the Duomo, the Cathedral of Florence, that is dedicated to Santa Maria del Fiore, Our Lady of the Flower. Again, the flower. Beautiful cathedral with the baptistry right in front, and I give you free time until the moment of Mass.
Beautiful Florence.
We go inside the cathedral for Mass, and after Mass again it will be free time for your lunch. I will set a meeting point with you, then we regroup and we finally meet the guides to go into the Accademia Gallery and see the David, the statue of the David. That is of course not the only thing into the Accademia Gallery, but is, let's say, the most famous, is the reason why there are usually long lines in front of the museum. But we have the skip the line ticket, so don't worry about that. And after the museum, we do a walking tour with the guide, so we can see the Ponte Vecchio. Are you familiar with the Ponte Vecchio? It's the old bridge, is the translation in English. Ponte is a bridge, and Vecchio is old. It's because it's the only bridge that survived at the Second World War. That's why it's the only one original in town. Ponte Vecchio, Piazza della Signoria, il Palazzo della Signoria, there is the town hall of Florence, and everything is beautiful there. But if you pay attention, I want you to pay attention on what is surrounding us, but also at people surrounding us. Remember, once again, about the pickpockets, I already had the opportunity to fight with some pickpockets in Florence. I don't want to fight today too, okay? So please be extra careful. We have approximately 45-50 minutes driving to Florence, to the first place where we stop. And I already divided the 3 groups. I have stickers with different colors, and I will give you it now. Yeah, I prefer to give you now because you're sitting and you keep the sticker with the different colors.
We are in Florence. We'll take some pictures here. Oh, that group is still there. Beautiful dome here. Cathedral. That's really beautiful.
The older bridge, the Ponte Vecchio, is the only one with some houses on top. What are those houses on top? There are some buildings, are now jewelry, so places where you can buy some gold. Then we have the dome. Look at how beautiful is the dome there with the Duomo with the dome. Okay, St. Mary of the Flower. So the big dome is actually the cathedral, and then the small one in front of the cathedral is the baptistry, dedicated to St. John the Baptist. It makes sense, yeah? And then the bell tower. The free time, if you want, you can also climb the bell tower. There's a ticket to pay. There's no elevator, more than 400 steps. You have a nice view, but also this one is nice. So, and then you see the other. There is another building there with the tower. Is the town hall? Okay, Piazza della Signoria.
What about the baptistry doors?
Yeah, the baptistry doors, we're going to stop in front of the baptistry doors. It's called the Door of the Paradise, decorated by Lorenzo Ghiberti. The guide is going to give us all the details about it. Okay? And then
okay, that's
on top, and then 3 arches.
That's the bridge.
The building in brown here is the National Library. Okay?
Very good. This is the National Library.
It's not that much, I'm at the midday. I don't have to walk to the church. So we need to back to
11:30.
Signori, are you familiar with this church? Do you know what church it is? Holy Cross. Bravissimi. Did you realize that when we saw the church from the top, from the place,
This is the Holy Cross Church. This is is the biggest Franciscan church in Florence. This is a beautiful church, Holy Cross Church in Florence. Beautiful.
Per poter vedere più da vicino cosa ci sono in Donatello, che molto si interessante si può comunicare anche a testa e faremo dei entrando nella cappella del crocifisso di Donatello. Chiunque vuol venire è benvenuto, grazie, pace bene.
Beautiful artwork. See the painting on the walls. This is the church. At the Basilica I celebrated Mass. See how many people there in line. Beautiful basilica in Florence. Beautiful Florence. It's raining in Florence. This is a restaurant in Florence and we are going to have our lunch. beautiful decoration.
Did you take a picture? See my brother.
There you are.
He's getting more Italian all the time, isn't he?
Yeah, it doesn't look like real. It's unbelievable. So many people are in this. These are all tourists, and this is Basilica in Florence.
Now, inside the museum, I won't use my pink flag, purple group with pink flag, okay? Anyway, I don't have a purple flag. And then I never know which will be my color when I work. But when we will walk in the city, I will have my flag. I'm not a giant, so you will see me easily, okay? But inside museums, no. Security reasons, better to have flags, lollipops, something like that. Okay, so...
Is this
first time?
Is this for the...
We start with David, and then we will visit the city. So just to have an idea of what we are going to do. First of all, we will visit this museum. We will concentrate on David and Michelangelo. Then, before continuing in the city, I'm going to give you the time to use restrooms, a very useful pit stop. This is always important. And then we will walk. The good thing of Florence is that it's a city on flat land, so no hills. We are not going to run. We are going to be back to the Cathedral Square. I'm going to tell you everything about the cathedral, the Baptistery, then Signoria Square. We will see the old bridge, and then we will end our tour. That was the first public school opened for artists, so the artists could have an education for free. And we are in the middle of 1700, and all the paintings that you see here around were collected in order to inspire the artists. In 1700s, to be an artist, first of all, you have to be a good copier of the past, and then you could develop your own language. And if you take a quick look to all the paintings, you notice that we have only religious subject paintings here. Church was the first engineer. Churches needed art in order to create the imagine back in 1500s, 1600s, Latin, and imagine how many people were able to understand Latin back in time. They were like, do you know what the Father is saying? And the man explained, well, I don't know. So the best way to explain religion was to use images. We can understand life of science, life of Mother Mary, crucifixion, the position from the cross. But in this museum, what is important more than the paintings are the statues. And this one, right in front of you, is Michelangelo introduced the idea of making a statue with David. When Michelangelo made something new, everybody wanted to copy him. And take a look at how all of these three people are churning one over the other, since they are like moving in a serpentine. The serpentine shape was introduced by Michelangelo. This is literally a statue that is a bridge between Renaissance and Baroque style. The most curious thing is that the artist who made the statue didn't have a real commission. This statue was made in order to answer to a critic that was moved to him by other artists. All the artists except one, Michelangelo, made something like that. The study, the plaster study case, was used in order to study proportions, dimensions, movement. Imagine what it is to work directly on marble and to make a mistake. It's not a piece of paper in which you're drawing something that you can erase it. You have to start again if you make a mistake. So it's a great waste of time, energy, and money. So Michelangelo was the only one who never used something like that, because for Michelangelo was natural to sculpt. Michelangelo said that inside each block of marble there was somebody, and he was just given freedom to the people that were already wearing the marble. And all the artists made something like that, and with that pantographs, compasses, they were able to reproduce these models on marble. So this statue was made in 1591. The artist was named Michelangelo was at the time. But this statue tells us a lot about how Michelangelo influenced everybody and influenced all history of art. And I always show that portrait of Michelangelo because I think that this portrait looks. If you take a look, Michelangelo is represented as an old man looking down, and this expression is very sad. Michelangelo was a man who had everything in his life. Michelangelo has got up to points on your timeline. He was born in 1475 and died in 1564. So he died at 89 years old. And it's like to die nowadays around 130. Not just he died, he died in good shape because Michelangelo sculpted till the end of his life. So sculpting is something physically demanding. Then Michelangelo died very, very rich. Very rich. Michelangelo died rich. He was a man who could ask whatever he wanted. He was the first artist in which we can use the word artist, that we don't use it nowadays. Before Michelangelo, the artists were good, very good craftsmen. Lots of artists died poor. Donatello, Botticelli, they died penniless. Michelangelo, no. Michelangelo was wealthy. Even if he always lived as a poor man, Michelangelo was a man who was accused of being stingy. In the truth, he was actually making money, that's the truth. In order to buy a property and to make a big building that had to show it to the Florentines, the great name of his family. Michelangelo had a statue that was like the one of a king. He was considered as a prince. Even the Pope didn't dare to touch him. So we are talking of somebody who was literally a star. But this man never had 5 minutes of happiness in his life. you can see from his expression. Friends, the few friends that he had died several years before him. There are lots of studies about Michelangelo. The last studies about his personality, and sincerely I do agree with those studies, started to say that Michelangelo probably was in the spectrum of autism, high functional autism. But for me it makes sense, because sculpting was his absorbing interest. That was the only thing that he was doing. He could sculpt and work for hours and hours and hours. Every time that I think about all the works that he made in terms of architecture, paintings, frescoes, statues, just as we said, was this man sleeping at least 2 hours each night? That was the way that he had to express himself, sculpting. So that's the type of thing that was very difficult to deal with him, because Michelangelo had some paranoia. One of his paranoia was that sooner or later somebody was going to change. So not very easy person, change instantly. And before showing you that, I'd like to show you some unfinished works, because when we take a look at David, David is so beautiful, so perfect, that we barely imagine that David came out from something like this, a big block of marble that was shaped by hands at one. The unfinished statues that you see here are this one and this one, the first two in front of you, as the last two near the roofs. These are imprisoned, what we call imprisoned people that are still imprisoned in the marble. They were made after David. They were left unfinished when Michelangelo left Florence in 1534 to go to Rome, and they should have been used for a tomb. But started as his dream and then as his nightmare. The tomb of Pope Julius II, a tomb over which Michelangelo worked for like 40 years. Michelangelo projected a tomb with like 60 statues. I mean, you need 2 years to make a statue. That was quite an optimistic project. Anyway, those statues were left unfinished here in Florence because Michelangelo was not going to use them. And then there was another statue in the middle. This is a statue that was made in 1506. It was left here. At the end of the work, the Cathedral of Florence gave a commission to Michelangelo the statues of the apostles. But Michelangelo made just this San Matthew that is unfinished because then he went to Rome. But it's important for me to show you San Matthew because first of all, you can see again a serpentine prison. Take a look. Even Jesus Christ in the 16th chapter has a six-pack. Because here we are in a museum that is made for him. David was made from 1501 to 1504. Michelangelo needed less than 3 years to make David. Michelangelo started when he was 26 and he ended when he was 29. Major. David is a statue that Michelangelo made for the Cathedral of Florence. David was, let's say, the Cathedral of Florence wanted some piece of marble. And the Cathedral of Florence wanted a statue of David, king of Israel, to be placed outside the cathedral itself, the dome. And this piece of marble that you see here was already used by 2 artists who gave up the work, say, forget it, this marble is useless. So for Michelangelo, this commission was a great challenge. Why the marble was considered useless? The marble itself was not a very good piece, full of veins, this kind of grey veins that are in the marble. This marble is good for tables, for pavements, not for statues, and full of inner cracks. Its tall was tall, that was very large. So it was incredibly difficult for Michelangelo to open the legs of the statues to be used by Sandro and calculate how to sculpt the marble. Therefore, Michelangelo was a great challenge from this terrible, useless piece of marble, the most beautiful statue of Renaissance. David started from David. It's not King David, it's still David, the shepherd, because it's the statue of finally Goliath. What is only in here is the inch. The leather strap that he used was still then he switched out with the sculpting. So this is David before the fire. But Michelangelo made a totally different iconography of David because one of the teachers I imagine a kid 10, 11 years old dressed as a shepherd. You don't imagine a man 20, 25 years old and completely naked. Well, that's a Renaissance, the rebirth of the old Roman and Greek artistic language. It's like a Greek statue. Take a look at another movement. All the weight of David is concentrated on a leg, so you have a natural twist of the hip. And it's movement, a little movement in the statue. Michelangelo for sure looked at the beautiful naked gods and goddesses made by the Greeks and quoted by the Romans. He dropped one group of the classic period statuary. Because on the head should have been the seventh part of the body, and then you see that the head and the hands are going to be. I'm going to tell you why. But let's talk a moment about the green group. Behind the green group, because in my opinion, this position here is the best one to have a look at David. Do not talk of a statue that represents, let's say, only a known king, a saint, a hero. David represents the new look that we have in mankind. In Renaissance. Let's make one step beyond medieval times. During the Middle Ages, everything that happened was considered our Lord's will. So people they didn't call it like an individuality, they were important because they belonged to a group. And then they had the idea that he didn't have any freedom. Everything that happens is our Lord's will. So it means no freedom, but even no responsibilities. Because if everything is predetermined, the planets are moved by our Lord. You're even, no, it's not me, it's the plan of our Lord. In Renaissance, we had a great shift in culture. The human being discovered his own brain. We are the most perfect creatures. The only one provided with will and free judgment. So now it's up to us to choose the right path. The possibilities, that's the free arbiter of the human being. So we pass from being victims in what we call the Homus Faber Fortunae Sue. Each man can build his own destiny. So now about Florence and the history of this town, because Florence is the cradle of Renaissance, but Florence is much older than Renaissance. You're in an old Roman city. Florence was founded by the Romans as a Roman colony in 1st century after Christ. The name of the city was Florencia. Florencia was a name chosen for two good reasons. First of all, the time in which the city was made. Pay attention here, because we have to cross. Sorry, let's look in a line here because were made by the Romans in order to welcome back life after the long winter. But Florencia was chosen even for another reason. Florente in Latin, it's a word that means flourishing, prosperous, rich, and the Romans were very superstitious. So to name this city Florencia was a way to wish this town to become a rich and prosperous city. And you know what? The Romans were right, because this city was able to become the second largest city of the known world. Well, not during the Roman times. During the Roman times, sincerely, Florencia was not such a big city. Florencia was a not very important colony, but the moment in which Florence became a super rich big city is at the end of 1200s, beginning of 1300s. That's the moment in which Florence is literally a sort of universe. Now, before the plague of 1348, the plague of 1348 was a disaster in Europe. It's the plague that killed 50% of the European population. But before that year, Florence was a city of 100,000 people. I know nowadays 100,000 people is nothing, but let's make some comparison with the cities of the time. Rome, 30,000 people. Yeah, the great capital of the Roman Empire was reduced in being a sort of village, and Florence was 3 times bigger than Rome. London, 40,000 people. Can you imagine Florence, bigger 2.5 times London? Unbelievable for me. But that was Florence at the time. And then Milan. Milan was the only city that was as big as Florence, and just one was bigger than Milan and Florence, Paris. That based its economy on textile industry or fashion industry since medieval time. In Florence, beautiful wool fabrics and brocades were made, and the fabrics of Florence, the wool fabrics of Florence, why they were so beautiful and so required all over Europe? Because near Florence, some mines of a special mineral called alumen were founded, and this alumen, it's a great sort of glue for the colors. So in dyeing the fabrics, the colors of the fabrics of Florence were much more brilliant and more long-lasting. And so that's why the fabrics of Florence were so required. The city was so rich. The volume of exchange, the number of merchants was so big that in 1251 Florence made a coin, the Fiorino d'Oro, the golden florin. This coin was the first coin made since the fall of the Roman Empire. 100% pure gold. That was a small coin. The weight was more than 3 grams of gold for each coin. And it was impossible to falsify the coin. Why? Since the Roman times, we didn't have golden coins. Because it was easy to about a little bit 40 euros. But back in time, the golden florin was even more valuable. Imagine that here in Florence we had 2 economies. One made with the florins, that was for the merchants. But everything is coated with marble. 3 different colors of marble. White marble from Carrara, northern part of the region. White marble symbolized faith. Green marble from the city in which I live, Raphael, symbolized hope. And then you have the pink marble or red marble that came from Gerfalco, southern part of Tuscany, that symbolizes charity. So, faith, hope, and charity. The 3 theological virtues, again, a message that everybody was able to understand at the time. When you see the scaffolds, it's because we are cleaning the marble. This marble was just cleaned. Take a look how white and shining it is. Over there, they're still making works because the marble absorbs pollution. So the marble was very dirty several years ago, and we need lots of time to clean marble. But let's go in the square so that we can have a look at the facade, Mary of the Flower. Mother Mary of the Flower, it's a special Mother Mary, it exists only here in Florence, as a way to put the city of Florence under the embrace, the protection of Mother Mary. This cathedral, by the way, I'm sure that Maggie told you, but especially in this square, in Signoria Square, have a look on your stuff, have a look on your belongings, because these are the squares in which we have some pickpockets. Okay, so the facade of this cathedral. This facade is very new compared with the cathedral, because the facade that you see was made only in 1888. You may ask, but come on, if in 1436 the cathedral was done, why did we have to wait all of this time? Because in the truth there was an older facade that was made in 1300s by Arnolfo di Cambio, the architect of the cathedral. The facade was left unfinished. The decoration arrived more or less at the two round windows that you see on the side. On top was still unfinished. This old facade was completely destroyed at the end of 1500, because the Grand Duke of the time, Francis, thought that this facade was too old, unfashioned, ugly, and so he said, I'm going to finance a new one, but he never paid for the new one. He destroyed the old one and he never paid for the new one. And for centuries we had a white facade. 1800 is a very important century for Italy. In 1861 we had finally our unification. Now Italy has a long history, but in terms of a unified nation we are younger than the United States. First capital was Turin, that's the city of our former kings, the Savoy family. The aim was to have Rome as capital, but Rome was not in Italy, it was still in the Vatican State. So in 1865 the capital was moved here in Florence. The capital was moved in Florence, and Florence was not prepared to be a new European capital, so the city underwent a lot of works, including let's provide a facade to this cathedral, because we cannot have a beautiful church without a facade. We had several international competitions. The architect who won the competition is the same who made the Room of David, that is Emilio de Fabris. Emilio de Fabris decided to use the same kind of marble that you have seen on the side in order to give an harmonious look to the cathedral. Plus, it was very lucky because you could even celebrate the brand new Italian flag. We use the same colors, white, red and green, and they added several statues. The most important one is Mother Mary blessing the square. That's Mother Mary of the flower, and she's sitting between the apostles. Now, the cathedral is very rich outside, but super simple inside. And that's the opposite of the Baccarat. This dome, this more or less this dome, is literally a masterpiece of technique. Imagine that this dome was made without the use of the scaffolds. So it's the first self-supporting dome that was made. It's the baptistery. The baptistery and the decoration outside the baptistery is completely covered with marble, including the dome, was ready in 1200s. This is the place in which all the Florentines were baptized. Even nowadays, we have one baptism per month. The baptistery was, so that's why it's so important, because that's the place in which the life of a Christian started. And in the first, the Christian rite, it was super important to have a baptistery because people couldn't participate to the Mass if they weren't baptized, or better, they could attend the Mass, but when the Holy Ghost was shown, they had to exit. So, baptism in the old Christian rite took place around 12, 13 years old. People underwent like 40 days of studies. They prepared for 40 days. Then they took a complete bath in the holy water. That's why baptisteries were so big, because the baptismal font was like a swimming pool. Then they could take a white dress. They became neophytes, new Christians, and they could enter in the cathedral. It's in medieval times the moment in which we started to baptize children, because we had a night child mortality. So in order to ensure them to go to heaven, we started to baptize children. The cathedral is very sober inside and rich outside. The baptistery is sober outside and rich inside. Inside is covered with mosaics, but outside we preserved 3 bronze gates, gilded with gold, super precious. This one is the most precious one, the last one that was made. We are in 1452. The artist that was called Ghiberti started the work in 1425. He needed 27 years to make this door. He made the mold, he made the fusions, the cast, and then he gilded everything with gold. This door is called the Gate of Paradise, and this door is divided in 10 big panels, and in each panel you can read a story of the Old Testament. So it's literally like a book. Take a look, from first line left to right, then you go second line left to right, and so on. You start with the story of creation. And you have all the story. You can see creation of Adam and Eve, temptation, the banning of the two from heaven. Next, you have a story of Cain and David. This dome, confined to Florence for around 1 century. We are in 1339 when the size of the cathedral was clear. And the cathedral has been enlarged several times, and now we have a problem. The dome is too big, and it was impossible to find enough wood to make the scaffolds. And another great problem is that if 1420, Mr. Filippo Brunelleschi. Filippo Brunelleschi went to Rome, and he studied an important dome in Rome, the one of the Pantheon in Rome. Then he studied with, in the Roman libraries, the Arabian technique to make domes, like the domes in Iran, and he combined the two techniques. Come back to Florence, and he made this dome that is self-supporting and very large. So lightness was the secret. Let's make two domes, one outside, the one that you see is bigger and thinner, one inside, smaller and thicker. The two domes touches on top. When you see the white lantern on top, the white lantern is a sort of weight that seal the domes. So the two domes are touching there, but between these two domes you have an empty space, like 1 meter, like that, in which staircase passes. The people that are on top, they climbed 464 steps. No elevator, of course. Now the two domes are connected with a sort of net made with stone bricks and wooden circles in order to be stability and elasticity. And the wooden circles in this street, but now it's basically impossible. In Florence, you're going to be disappointed. The Roman ruins, the few that we have are under our feet. We had a stratification in the construction of the town. So no Roman ruins. You can see only two Roman tombs here in Florence, two streets. The Romans made columns always in the same way. The street as a cross. The main one, direction east. This is west, east and west. This is the Decumano Maximo. The second most important direction, north to south, is not this one. It's the one down there. So where you see the column, can you see the column that is right in front of the merry-go-round? This is the place in which Carlo and Decumano are still crossing. The arch that you see was completely remade in 1895. The square was rearranged, rebuilt. Local material. We had a quarry of sandstone on the other side of the river Arno. So that's why you have the three flags on the terrace. So you got a European flag, Italian flag, and a white flag with something in red. That's the flag of Florence. That's our city hall. The mayor of Florence works inside that building. This building has a nickname. We call it Palazzo Vecchio, Old Palace. This is not the oldest palace of Florence. The name Old Palace is related with this gentleman that is right in front of us riding his horse. The bronze statue that you see is a real were made because it's a bridge that is like a street. The old bridge is very famous for shops, and we have just one kind of shops on the old bridge. Nowadays, gold shops. But when the bridge was made, we didn't have gold shops. We had the butcher shops. And the butchers were there for a very good reason, to keep the shop clean. You have a river, they go through everything in the river. But this river was an open air garbage can. It was a working river. Nobody wanted to have windows on the river. When and why the butchers moved and gave their space to the goldsmith. Thanks to the line of windows that runs over the little houses. Can you see? You have some windows, squared windows. So these windows are nothing more than a line on the street. That was made in 1565. It's a little bit less than 1 mile long. Connects Signorina's Palace, the building with the tower, the old house of the Grand Duke, with his brand new palace on the other side of the river. So thanks to this private street, the Grand Duke and his family could cross the city without mixing themselves with the citizens, but they had a private access. Imagine when the royal family stepped on the bridge. The smell was disgusting, and so Ferdinand, when he gained the crown, said, no way, I'm not going to step on a stinky bridge, I want a shining bridge for me. So he made a law, all the butchers, only goldsmith on the bridge. It's since 1591 that we have only goldsmith or gold shops.
Yes. All right.
Well, we are back in the bus going back to our hotel from Florence.
I've done the grand switcheroo.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes. Wonderful, wonderful. So, how did you find today, Florence?
Oh, I love Florence.
Very good.
Yes.
Can you say bravo to Florence?
Bravissimo!
Very good, very good.